Good evening and welcome to the TLC Unleashed Show, Hollywood Vibes, Sports, and Life. We have some special guests in the audience tonight in the studio. It's actually so good to be back here tonight. I feel like I haven't been here for a while, so we are live in LA tonight. I've been in San Diego quite a bit. I know you guys have seen me kind of on the, doing all these events out there. So it's good to be back, and I feel like this is my hometown now. So back in LA for the night, enjoying it. And tonight we're going to raise some awareness on what Tourette's is. And we've got some special guests with us tonight. We have with us Janine Tejeda, and we also have Devin Denicola. So welcome to the show.
Thank
Hi.
you for having us.
Did I butcher your last names?
No.
No.
Perfect.
Yes. See, that's what happens when you practice. So we've got a lot to talk about tonight. I'm so excited about this topic because I feel like it's so misunderstood. And I feel like, and I'm going to be honest, I've just educated myself recently on it because, it's something that I never really knew about. And I never really knew anyone with Tourette's. So, kind of being naive, I didn't educate myself. So it's really great to be able to share with my audience, viewers and listeners, what Tourette's is and what we're doing to help support and team up for Tourette's. So we're going to start off with basically whoever wants to share first. We're going to start off with explaining what Tourette's is.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
start. Tourette syndrome is a neurological disorder. It usually starts in early childhood, and it's characterized by unwanted movements and unwanted noises and impulsivity and lots of different things that go with it, like ADHD and OCD and anxiety. So that's just the real short version of it, but it's completely not within the person's control. That's the big take-home message.
Okay. And how do people get diagnosed with Tourette's? How do we know if people have Tourette's or not?
Usually in early childhood, you'll start seeing some very early signs, which might be hyperactivity and ADHD type of things. But then there's the eye blinking, and it might be throat clearing, things like that. And when they persist for over a year, and it needs to be over a year with motor and vocal tics together. It has to be a complex symptomology that happens.
Okay.
You usually see a developmental pediatrician, and then they send you off to a pediatric neurologist, and they start watching the symptoms, and then they put it all together after a year. And it needs to be a full year without any break in the symptoms. And that's what kind of makes it hard to diagnose, because a lot of times kids can have tics, and it's not Tourette syndrome, and it goes away.
Okay.
So usually doctors want to give the families and the patients the benefit of the doubt, and they don't diagnose that right away. So actually it's underdiagnosed. And then a lot of times kids, if they have a mild case, they'll learn how to hold it back. And so those symptoms will go away because they're purposely holding it back. So you've got 4-month break, and the clock starts all over again to start counting. Okay, are we at a year yet? So it takes a long time.
Okay. And is it mostly found in young children? And what are the ages that it starts? And do we find this in adults as well?
Yes. So it's found in young kids, usually between the ages of 5 to 7 or 8 is when they usually see it, but it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, it could maybe not come about until usually adolescence or preteen. That's another time that it can come. And then it can persist, but usually you will see it wane or, go away a bit as puberty is reached and it into adulthood.
Okay.
But it kind of has this 30% situation. You have 30% of the people with it staying the same, 30% of them getting better, and 30% of them getting worse. So it's variable. And that's the thing about Tourette's. It's like the other spectrum disorder. A wide spectrum of how symptoms come about, how they appear throughout the course of development in a person, and then whether or not they stay and persist into adulthood or not. So it's hard.
Okay, so let's go back. Share with us what tics are, because not a lot of people know what that is, and how can we describe that?
How do I describe it? It's like a movement, an unwanted, unpurposeful movement. Or noise. It could be a quick little glitch, a movement,
Okay.
an eye blink, an eye twitch, a sniff, a throat clear, but
Okay.
it's not because of allergies or any other thing. There's a urge that the person has before it comes about. And in order to kind of satisfy that urge, they might need to move a shoulder, do a complex set of movements to release that feeling. And so that, am I saying it correctly? Do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, the brain sends
Yeah.
a neurosignal
Okay.
to the body, and with people with Tourette's, such as myself, you are unable to stop that. You just don't know when it's coming.
Okay.
And like Jeannie was saying, it could range from anything. Whenever
Okay.
I was a child, it was stomping my foot to hitting a wall to slapping my fingers together to clicking my tongue. I mean, it just there's no limit to what it can be.
Okay.
Anything on your body could end up being a tick.
It could be a word,
Yeah.
an unpurposeful word.
Yeah, triggers
Okay.
could be like for me, it was very strange as a child. Whenever my parents would start the car in the morning going to school, that would just trigger my tics.
Okay.
I know there are some children that have like they can't hear a certain word or a number.
Okay.
Certain words or numbers will trigger tics. So you have to be
Okay.
very careful, and each person is different. It's just such a wide range of things that can trigger them and what the tics actually are.
Okay. And Devin, when did you find out and realize, or your family, your parents realized that you had Tourette's?
So I got diagnosed when I was age 7.
Okay.
I was in private Catholic school at the time, and we were sitting in church, and my first grade teacher noticed that I just couldn't sit still. So from then on, it took about, like Jenny said, about a year before the doctors would diagnose me, and I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, ADD, ADHD. One thing I will say is a lot of people that aren't educated will think that Tourette's is the yelling out of cuss words, and that's not it. A lot of times in the media and in movies, you'll see people yelling out cuss words and say, "Oh, that person has Tourette's," which is it's often associated with it, but it's actually called coprolalia,
Okay.
which is completely different than Tourette's.
It is. Okay. I did not know that. Very interesting. So is that one of the symptoms that you've experienced as well?
No,
Okay.
fortunately, I was not.
Yeah.
I did not have that.
Okay.
Mostly mine were vocal and motor tics. I did a lot of foot stomping, a lot of yelling, eye blinking, and sometimes a certain tick will go away and
Okay.
another one will develop.
Okay. Has that been in your experience that happened?
Oh yes, yeah,
Okay.
all
so
the time.
what were the ones that you lost? So some of the ticks that were gone and now you have.
Well, I'm very fortunate that I don't have many tics anymore.
Okay, great.
After young adolescence, it typically gets better. Sometimes it doesn't, depending on the person. Everybody's different. But I was fortunate enough to have my tics subside after young adolescence. There was other factors that went into that, and I'll go into that later. But some of the things that I would do is I would stomp my foot so hard to where I would bruise my heel, and I couldn't walk.
Wow.
I would yell so loud that I would lose my voice. My hand tics, I would squeeze my fingers. I couldn't write and do my homework. My mom would have to come in and write my stuff down. So a lot of people, and my tics were severe, but there are so many other cases that are so much more severe. I mean, what I'm describing sounds terrible, and it is.
Yeah.
But there are some that are far worse. You can go on YouTube and search severe cases of tics, and there's a 14-year-old boy that puts holes in his parents' wall. That literally the sheetrock is just full of holes. He hits his mother, hit his sister, yells profanities, can't hear certain. I think it's the number 3 he can't hear, and it's tremendous what it can be. And he ended up getting there's a stent almost that they could put in the brain that helps block those neurotransmitters, and he got approved for that surgery, and it's a very risky surgery. And at the end of the YouTube video, as bad as it is in the beginning, it turns out okay.
Right.
He did have some success with it and was able to. He's now able to lead somewhat normal life without the severity of hurting his parents or himself.
Yeah.
So there's some treatments out there and some alternatives that we can get into a little later.
Is there the holistic treatments? Is there medicine? I mean, is there something that's prescribed like in a medicinal way?
There's all kinds of stuff. I mean,
Okay.
people have tried some of the holistic things like taking magnesium for calming because that's known to calm. Trying to take the different fish oils or DHA, lots of different things that people have heard that would help the brain. And so they've tried that. And then there's all kinds of medications that the doctors will try. And there's a set standard way that they usually start adding them and trying them. But the real thing about Tourette's and medication is anxiety makes it worse. So any type of anxiety management is number one.
Yeah.
It's a dopamine disorder. That's a neurochemical in your brain. So anything that blocks dopamine is another choice. And anything that takes like the peripheral nervousness away from your body and your limbs and you're just being nervous, that's another strategy for reducing the tics. So yeah, there's people have tried the gluten-free diets, all the types of things that you would try for like autism.
Yeah.
A lot of people try for Tourette's. And there's a lot of crossover in some of the symptomology with ADHD and stuff. So people were like limit sugar or, optimize protein. There's a lot of different things that people have tried.
Okay.
We've tried a lot of stuff with my own child. And I'll tell you that none of the holistic stuff worked for him.
Okay.
I did the DHA and the fish oil for years. And I did the no sugar and the high protein for years. And it never made any difference for him. We had to go to medication for him. So.
And the association between exercise, I'm just very curious. And how does exercise, because you're talking about blocking the dopamine.
So for this, it's like kind of like a fine line. For my son, exercise definitely helps, and he's the type of kid that needs to swim every day, and he needs a lot of like heavy pressure and heavy exercise. But there does come a point when he gets too overstimulated and he's done too much, and he's gotten overheated that it now works against us. So we're always kind of like trying to keep that balance of like get the kid out, get the exercise, but don't overdo it.
So overheating will
Overheating for him.
exaggerate that as well,
Yep.
the symptoms? Okay. interesting.
Overexcited, overstimulated, too many things on his plate, way overtired.
Okay.
Overtiredness is another huge thing. And I don't know if that is the same for you, but sleep is huge for him. He has to sleep.
For me, as far as the, getting out and exercising, as long as it worked for me, because when my mind wasn't focused on tics, when it was focused on something else, I didn't
Yeah.
think about it and I never ticked, fortunately for me. But back to the medications, I was on over 35 different medications.
What kind of medications, Devin? Like, can you give
Well,
us an example of
I
some
can
of
give
them?
you a couple, but honestly, a lot of the medications affected my memory. There's a lot of things that I don't remember. Orap, Haldol. There's some other ones that.
Those are all the dopamine ones.
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
basically, like she was mentioning, it's too much dopamine flow in the brain. So all these medications they put me on were to slow down the dopamine flow.
Okay.
Or some medications had nothing to do with Tourette, so we're trying to focus on helping other aspects, like the ADHD or
Right.
the ADD, and that actually made the tics worse. I actually was, there's this doctor that was in Houston. I was about 12 years old in junior high. And he was one of 3 doctors in the world that could prescribe medications that had not yet been approved by the FDA. They're still in trial.
Okay.
And I can't remember the name of the medication to save my life. I'd have to ask my mom. She knows all that stuff. But, they put me on it, and they had a 90% success rate and a 10% failure rate. And the failure rate was, well, I'll go into that in a second. I was the 10%. Now, I was in 7th grade. I was sitting in the middle class, and all of a sudden, my neck muscles just started going back, and I couldn't stop it. I put my hand behind my head and tried to pull it forward, and I literally could not. Then my eyes started rolling the back of my head, and then I started swallowing my tongue and hyperventilating.
Oh my God.
So, unfortunately, I was one of the 10%ers, but, it almost killed me. I couldn't breathe. They gave me Benadryl, which had always been something that helped me relax and put me to sleep.
Yeah.
And fortunately, that did the trick. But it's trial and error with medications, and then your body adjusts to those medications. You have
Yeah.
to change it up.
Yes.
So it's very tough for parents because you as a parent, I mean, I'm not one, but I can only imagine you want to do what's best for your child,
Yeah.
and it's really tough to see them go through that. But you want to try to find the right balance with
course.
certain medications and dosages. And one thing that really made a difference is after that situation with me and that medication, my mom I sat my mom down and I said, look, Mom, I know I'm only 12 or 13, but I need you to start listening to me about how I feel with these medications. And at that point, it really hit her. She's like, you're right. You know,
Yeah.
because as a parent, you're overprotective and
Yep.
you want to do so
Of
much
course.
that you forget sometimes that the child is the most informative thing that you have to help them make the best decisions.
Yeah.
So once we started doing that, anytime I felt uncomfortable on medication, she would take me off.
Okay, good.
So, yeah.
It sounds like she was very supportive, as I know Janine is with her son, and I can only imagine what that's like as a parent, being a mom myself, and and being in the health and wellness industry as well. We know our bodies better than anyone, so doctors can tell us what to take, but we know what works and what doesn't work, and our body will tell us. So it sounds like that was the case for you as well.
I think
Yeah.
that sometimes that what you just said right there, you're in control of your own body, but with Tourette's, you're not in control of your own
Yeah.
body. My son will say, I don't want to do any of these things. I would do
Yeah.
anything to not move, and I think that he would describe it and say, like, I feel like I have to learn how to operate this body. I don't know.
wow.
I don't know how to do it. He has a leg kick right now. It looks like a karate kick, and he does it about 1,000 times a day. And the action of doing it over and over has hurt his hip and his groin. So it's like a constant thing that we're trying to manage with him all the time is like, can we do something that's counter to that movement?
Okay.
And that's something that's another strategy as far as like trying to help with tics. They have something called CBIT. It's called Cognitive Behavioral Intervention for Tics. And so what they do is try to teach competing moves or responses, and you're supposed to catch your tic when you're feeling that urge or that premonitory thing that it could be a tickle, an itch. It's different for everybody, and you know it's coming.
Do
and
you,
if you
so you have that experience, Devin? You know when it's coming?
Certain tics I don't know, but if I feel like I'm gonna have quote unquote an attack where
Okay.
I know I'm gonna start ticking a lot.
Yeah.
The best way that I would describe it to people is you have a kettle on the stove that you're heating up
Okay.
water, right? And at some point the top's gonna come up and it's gonna whistle.
Yeah.
Well, as a person, you're that kettle, and it's just getting closer and closer to boiling, and then next thing you know, it's gonna hit.
Yeah.
So that's the best way to describe that.
My son described it as, he says, I feel like there's a bunch of bats in a cave and all the bats just fly out at once and release. And that is my tics just all being released. And he said, in one sense, it's a relief. Oh, gosh, I could just let them all go. But on the other hand, it's so much movement happening all the time that I get exhausted by it.
Yeah.
So, for him, he struggles with putting the extra effort and energy into doing a competing response to maybe minimize the
Yeah.
damage he's doing to his joint versus just letting it all go. He needs to find that fine line for himself where he doesn't hurt himself, but he doesn't just let it go. It's hard for him.
That must be a lot of energy that's
takes a lot of-
expelled,
Yes.
and that must be exhausting because
Yes.
that movement. I mean, and it sounds aggressive and sharp, and like that analogy of what you both said is incredible.
And, just tensing up, not even kicking or punching, but just
Yeah.
tensing up before those movements.
Yeah.
It's just, it's almost like you just have a whole, almost like superhuman strength in a sense. Like there was times where I had attacks and I kicked the side of the garage, a brick wall, and cracked the foundation. Like my parents had to redo the side of the garage.
Yeah.
And I was 13 or 14.
Wow.
I can imagine
It's
that.
Powerful.
extremely
Yes.
extremely powerful stuff.
So, have you, in particular, hurt anyone or hurt yourself, like broken any bones or any?
Fortunately, no. But there
Okay,
was
good.
one time where I got to the point where I was so bad, and my mom would have to film me, kind of in the background to show the doctors what I was going through, because back then there really wasn't much support. Like, fortunately, there's the Tourette's group here, and there's a lot. It's a little more known. My mom was kind of on her own between her and the doctors. There were maybe one or two other people, and that was it. So she would video me, and there was one time I was probably about, I'd say 17 or 18, or about 17, and I was just having this massive attack outside, and it was 2:30 in the morning, and I'm just going and kicking and punching and screaming onto the carport. And my mom was trying to, calm me down. She comes in, she puts her hand on my shoulder, and I turn around and I almost hit her. And because I just didn't know, I was just out of my element. And I saw that, and it just I realized it was her, and just kind of broke down and started crying. And I was like, okay, I have to do something, not just with medications, but with myself. And that's when I started. I was fortunate enough to, I was in martial arts at the time. I just started, and I was able to kind of learn how to focus and put my mind in a place after that incident, to put my mind in a place where I was happy. And it was a kind of a mind over matter, which is really tough when you can't control your body. But that incident really kind of set the course for me to do everything in my power to better myself mentally,
Yeah.
to help me kind of grow and hopefully try to control these tics in a way. So after that incident, sat down with my mom, and, as Janine was saying, you're at a, pediatric neurologist. I went to one until I was, just about 18. After that, you can't go anymore. You're not considered a child anymore. So we sat down and we decided to go a completely different route. So we looked up psychiatrists that had had some experience with adults with ADD, ADHD, and Tourette's, and we found one. So we went to her, and she said, well, I think we're kind of doing this wrong as far as medication. And I was like, okay, I'm all ears. I'm tired of all this stuff too.
Yeah.
So she put me on this medication called Luvox. And what it does is it doesn't do anything with the dopamine. Because there's so much dopamine and not enough serotonin, what this medication did was increase the serotonin to match the dopamine.
Yes.
And
Interesting. Okay.
the only side effect was appetite loss and weight loss, which I was fine with because I was extremely overweight. I was
Okay.
up to 340 pounds when I was 17, 18 years old due to medication and just, being hungry all the time. And so I was like, okay, one pill as opposed to 6 a day.
Yeah.
And you're going to try to calm me down with the serotonin. And that medication was my miracle. That's when I did the 180, and I was on it for about a year and a half. But also, on the same token, getting off all those other medications, the withdrawals, that 6 months was the worst time of my life.
Yikes.
I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus. I was tired. I was mean to everyone. But, and it was tough to get through. But once I got through that, and I was able to stay on the Luvox for another year and a half or so, I was able to, like I said, I wanted to start focusing mentally on myself and bettering myself that way. I was able to get off the Luvox and control it. So, now I'm on no medication. I have hardly any tics. I'm focused on a lot of different things. And I think that's another big thing, is to give hope to these parents and children,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of successful people out there that have Tourette's.
And you being one of them.
Well, thank you. But it's one of those things where I'm glad I can be hope to someone, but it's not about me. I just want them to know that you can become something. You can do something positive. You can overcome it. Now I know every situation is different with Tourette's. Some people more severe than others, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of successful people out there. Mozart had Tourette's.
Yeah. I
Howard
read that.
Hughes had
Yeah.
Tourette's.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd, the actor,
Yeah.
has Tourette's. There's several people out there that are doing big things. My buddy that you talked to the other day, Pete Anico, he's running for
Yeah.
SAG president. He's had Tourette's and been in the film industry since 1984, doing stunts.
Yeah, he's doing
So
amazing.
it's really tough sometimes. When we were at the support group meeting the other day, one of the moms, she was like, Devin, what do you do? I was like, well, I'm in medical sales. And her first reaction was, there is hope. There is hope. And I'm like, of course there is hope.
Yeah.
It's just very tough for the parents seeing their children like that, to think that they
course.
can grow and overcome. So there is, you can, the children can. It just takes a lot of support and a lot of patience.
Absolutely.
It's really tough.
So I want to ask both of you too, your experience from a mom's perspective and your experience, Devin, yourself. So going through school, I mean, kids are mean. There's a lot of, things that go on out there. I actually was bullied in school at one point, I remember it all so well. So it's like one thing, like, how were people towards you and how did they treat you? Obviously, you also said that, from all the medications and things like that, there was, the excess weight. And also, Janine, how was it with your son and being a mom looking down upon that and trying to, be a good mom and coach him and not wanting to, give heck to all the kids in the schoolyard because I know I would be right there. So tell me your experience in that.
I'll tell you, my son, in the beginning was a little bit reticent to like accept Tourette's, but when he finally did, now he kind of has a bit of an attitude about it. And his attitude is, I have Tourette's and it's not my fault. And if you don't like it, then you're going to talk to my mom or the principal or something. We ended up having to switch schools because the school wasn't supportive, and he's never really been bullied. I have to say that I have the opposite problem. He is aggressive, I think, because of the Tourette's, and he has been the type that I have to watch out for bullying. His impulse control is very little in that department. So if anybody crosses him or gives him a hard time, he is the one.
Okay.
So I would get a lot of parents coming to me saying, you've got a problem with your kid. Your kid goes after mine. He does a lot of inappropriate touching, poking, kicking, spitting. Okay. We know now that a lot of those were Tourette's, tics, and behavioral problems. So we moved schools, and the new school has been extremely supportive, and we go in now, and we talk to all the kids, we talk to all the teachers, and so we're very proactive about it.
Great.
And it kind of came about because I had to explain on a constant basis why he was acting the way he was, that it wasn't purposeful, that he wasn't really a mean kid, so it kind of went in the other way. So now he's kind of glommed onto this, like, okay, I have Tourette's, and there's a lot of things that I do, and I need to get a pass on some of this stuff, but it's better for him to just admit and tell everybody I have Tourette's so that he doesn't get labeled the bad kid. So we kind of got the opposite problem.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and in your experience, Devin?
There's always a couple of kids that are going to give you a hard time, but for the most part, but I didn't have too much of a problem with that. Okay. For me and my mom and the family, it was dealing with the teachers and the principals. Back then, because they didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it was. And at the time, I was going to a private Catholic school. So whenever they see something like that, they're like, okay, well, that's your problem, not ours. They're very like
black and white.
Yeah. So I'll never forget, I had the sweetest second grade teacher, Miss Palfrey. Anytime I had something going on, she would just let me go in the other room across the hallway. She even brought a blanket and a pillow for me that I could go lay down in the other room. And then in fourth grade, I had this lady named Miss Holcomb. I hope you're listening. She was the most she was just the meanest lady and just wouldn't help me out. And a lot of, for me, like time tests in school were tough.
Yeah.
Having that pressure, my tics would act up, especially in math.
Yes.
We had a thing where we had to do our, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You couldn't move to one until you finished the other, and it was a time thing. I was the last one to finish, and my teacher, I'll never forget, Miss Woolsey, made a big deal of, hey, everybody, guess what? Devin finally finished. Now we can move on. And for me, I didn't see that as positive. I saw it as like, wow, you're making me seem like the bad person here. And so I told my mom, and let's just say Miss Woolsey never gave me any issues.
All right, Mom,
after that.
shout out.
She went and talked to the principal and that lady, and I sat outside. I heard a lot of noise, but apparently something was said and done, and there were no issues after that.
I love it.
So,
High five to your mom.
Yeah,
I would
awesome.
be that
Thanks
mom
for everything,
too.
Mom. Love you.
I think that's a big issue. I think that the schools don't understand. And my son was in trouble all the time with the teachers. And I sometimes would have other family members from other kids come and tell me, do you know that your son was sitting out in the hall the whole day? Like he was in trouble the whole day. So I felt that same thing where I had to go and like advocate for him, and I had to kick some butt because it's like, we're in the middle of being diagnosed. A lot of people didn't know what was going on, but they didn't want to give him the benefit of the doubt. The kid couldn't cut a break anywhere. He was in
Yeah.
trouble all the time. And I would say, what is it going to take for you to understand? I mean, a doctor's note we've got.
Yeah.
We're working on an IEP, an individual educational plan.
Okay.
And even with all of that, you just cannot inspire some people to give your kid a break. And it would make me mad.
Yeah.
As part of the reason why I kind of got involved in a lot of this stuff, because I was just bugged. I was bugged with teachers, and I was bugged with the lack of support in the medical field. And why don't we have more medications to help our kids?
Yeah.
How come the Tourette Society isn't helping us more? I mean, I just got into this, like, I am bugged with everybody.
Good
And
for
I'm
you.
going to go out there, I'm going to try to find a way, and so that's how I got involved. But I have to say that I do realize that there's a lot of inconsistencies with, the disorder itself. So, yeah, I mean, that's the nature of it. I'm not going to go out there and, solve all these problems by being involved, but at least it makes me feel like I'm doing something.
Well,
so.
you are doing something, and
Yeah.
I commend you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing such a phenomenal job. I can see that it's not only just for your son, but
Yeah.
it's for others as well.
Yeah.
So the support is so needed.
Yes.
And and again, we wanted to educate everyone tonight because we don't know what we don't know, and
That's
that's the
right.
thing. And if we're not educating ourselves on these subjects and people and learning people, then how can we help others
That's
and
right.
be caring and compassionate and have empathy for people that are going through things like that, such as Devin and your son.
Yes.
And so the question that I have too is, what about emotional support? So counseling, therapy. Was that anything that you guys did as a family, individually? Do you believe that that would work? Because I mean, I'm in the coaching field as well, and and so to me, I think I would hope that there would be a support group or somebody that could help counsel you through that as a family, because that pressure as
Yeah.
a parent, and like you said too, Devin, it's like you want to do anything for your child. I mean, I would lay my life down for my
Yes,
kid.
that's how I
And-
feel.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I would support him. I
Yeah.
would go in and do whatever I needed to do.
Yes.
So, would counseling help?
Definitely. And that's something that it was put out right away, put out on the table by the school team, was like, okay, whatever's going on, there's a lot of negative self feelings that he has because he knows he's in trouble all the time, and a lot of melting down in school. And so that was, counseling was like one of the first things that we did. So he did go into that at the school, and then now we've continued on our own. But that's something else that is part of the cognitive behavioral intervention for tics. Like when you go to UCLA, that's our center of excellence here in California. There's a team of doctors, they're psychiatrists and doctors that do the medication and counseling, and that's kind of like your one-stop shop. Once you're in, it's really hard to get in. You're on a waiting list, but once you get in, you've got a team of people, and that's what they're doing. They're doing counseling, they're doing coaching, they're guiding, they're trying to make my child anyway, understand why working on the tics is a good idea. But we get everything, and coaching is huge, and
Yeah.
that's a social skill, and that's always been on the table for my son. And I'll tell you
Right.
that's one thing he does not want to do. He does not want to work on that. He feels like he has so many other things to deal with. He does not want to work on social skills. But when you look at that spectrum of things that Tourette's has, that's one of them. It's like the social skills development is a little lagging behind. I don't know if that happened with you, but I've talked to a lot of families that say, my child is socially about 2 or 3 years behind, and it's very common and typical. And that's with my son. He's about 3 years behind.
Okay.
It does progress. It just progresses at a little bit slower rate. I
Yeah.
think there's just so many things going on with the brain and so many other things to deal with. That's like kind of like the last thing that comes along.
Yeah.
Well-
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for me, it's the opposite. So, whenever I was diagnosed when I was young, growing up, we didn't have all of those resources.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay.
So I relied heavily on my family and
Yeah.
friends. So the social aspect for me, with the people I was comfortable with, for the most part, I would go and talk, or my mom would come and would take me fishing or something. I was always out doing something with someone.
Yeah.
So socially, I wasn't behind it because that was my way
Yeah.
of getting help.
Yeah, right.
So for me, it was family and friends, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, they are the reason that I was able to, even though I went through everything, they're the reason that I was able to grow. They were my support system. Like my grandparents, whenever I would have my mom's mom and dad, when I would come have an attack, they lived 45 minutes away. My grandfather, who's still alive and kicking at 94, just as sassy as can be.
Oh my gosh.
That's
He
great.
would drive 45 minutes away to my house, to my parents' house, put me in the truck and drive me around for 2 hours until I fell asleep in that car.
Yeah.
Drive me back home and then drive back 45 minutes. Like
Yeah.
that's and I know not everyone is fortunate enough to have that kind of support, but for me, I'm extremely blessed and thankful that I had that. So, and that's another reason we try to do these kind of things. We want people to know
Yeah.
that there is
Yes.
support out there. If you don't have anyone,
Yeah.
find a way to find us. We'll get the
Yes.
information. Talk to us.
Yes.
We want to be able to let you know that you have someone to talk to.
Yes.
And statistically, I think, was it now 1 out of 100 children has
Yeah.
Tourette's now?
Yes.
I mean, it's
One
it's
out of 100.
It
One
has
out of
been
100.
underdiagnosed, and the numbers have been changing. At first, we were hearing it was like 1 in 360, and then they were, changing the statistics a bit and doing, 6 in 1,000. But it's getting closer and closer to following the same statistics as autism. It's about 1 in 100.
so it's mostly about people accepting it,
Yeah.
because a lot of people may think, oh, I have a tick here and there, but I don't have Tourette's.
Right.
Well, you don't know.
Yeah.
But with those kind of numbers, there's going to be an increasing amount of people that have a lot of questions, and
Yeah.
we'll do whatever we can to help inform,
Okay.
support these
Great.
people, because they're going to need it.
And so, how you talked, Janine, about the year plan and kind of getting the diagnosis down like that. So, if there's a lot of parents out there, wondering and kind of curious to thinking maybe their children has it. So, what would be the action steps that we could encourage them to do so that they could, find out clinically from a doctor or be diagnosed?
So if they're not sure if their child has Tourette's or not, they would probably see their pediatrician first. And they could also talk to their school, because the school, if they're a school-age child, the school is supposed to be able to evaluate the child. So that's the step. So they do their own neuropsychological evaluation, or
Okay.
the pediatrician will. Now the pediatrician's going to do several things. To refer them off to a pediatric neurologist or a developmental pediatrician. So those are the two pathways that it can go.
Okay.
And, it's not always clear cut. It really isn't, and sometimes it takes the finesse of several people weighing in on it. So those are the first things that they would do. And then they can also go to the website, thetourette.org.
Okay.
And that website also has a lot of resources, symptoms, all the different things that you might be seeing in your child if you're not sure. And so that is an awesome resource. And that, depending on whatever state you're in, there are ways to click and see Find My State, and then that state will kick you back into the chapter of the state where you live. So
Okay.
like in California, there are 2 chapters, Northern California and Southern California. A person in California would just click on one of those wherever they live, and it would go into another web page that takes you, to people like us.
Okay, fantastic.
yeah.
Okay, Janine, the question I have for you is there support for you as a family, being the mom? I mean, this has got to be
Yeah.
so difficult on you.
Yeah. I am one of those type of people that try everything. And so
Yeah.
yet for me, I seek it out. I need
Yeah.
help. So I've been going, I
for
see
you.
a therapist on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot on me to do. I have a lot of my own anxiety.
Yeah.
And so I put this on and I'm worried a lot and I'm trying to search for everything that I can do.
Yeah.
And it can get, overwhelming. So I go on a regular basis.
Great.
And
That's good.
I'm that type of person,
And I think it's so helpful. I mean, there's that,
Yeah.
people think, therapy and going to
Yeah.
therapists and things like that.
You've got to
but
talk it through.
You have to talk it out. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just talking to anyone. Devin had the, obviously, the blessing of having the family and support
Yes.
there. And because I can imagine, I mean, it was going to put stress on a relationship, a
Yeah,
marriage.
It does. It puts stress on the marriage.
family.
My husband and I did not agree about medication. He really felt strongly that a child's brain needs to grow without the influence of medication. And I'm a pharmacist and I completely understand that, but I come from a little bit of a different background where I work at a children's hospital. I see how medication can help somebody. And I kind of think like, if your body's not making insulin, then you give insulin. That
Yeah.
I don't consider that being detrimental. Now, what we're trying to do here is give a medication that either brought up the serotonin levels or blocked the dopamine. And he just really felt strongly to wait. We waited as long as we could. And that conflict between us did cause problems. It did.
Yeah.
You know, that was when my child was 6. So here we are, he's 12, 6 years later, and we've worked through it. And I'm really lucky that I have a supportive husband to do that.
Great.
But I also had to take matters into my own hands and work on myself too. You know, because
Absolutely.
every parent has the right to their opinion, you know, and his opinion wasn't wrong. It was
Yep.
just different
It
than
was
mine.
his opinion. Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
right.
a lot of things to work on with this.
Well, good for you for working through
Yeah.
it. And as adults to a child with Tourette's, were you able to hold a full-time job and have a social life? And or is this your life?
For me, it's kind of my life. You know, I
Yeah.
always thought that when my child was young, that I was going to go back to my career. That was the plan. And
Yeah.
it just seemed like with him, every step of the way, there was something that blocked me. He was 2.5 years old and there was some problems at nursery school. I got called, you know, so, okay, I'm not going back this year. At 3, I didn't go back. At 4, I didn't go back. I mean, it's just never stopped. So
Yeah.
right now, I just keep my foot in the door. I work 2 days a week, and the rest of the time is dealing with him because I'm still right in the middle of all of this. Everything that Devin went through when he was 12, I'm in the middle of it right now.
Wow.
So, and you know, this is part of what I do. I do a lot
Yeah.
of waiting around to pick him up after like certain therapies and stuff. And so I do a lot of my, you know, support group stuff online with my iPad while I'm waiting for him. That's what I do.
Good
I
for
just
you.
live it, eat it, and breathe it. That's it.
Good for you. And you have such a great attitude and just the positivity. I mean,
High five. You
I,
deserve it.
yeah, you deserve
hard.
a high five.
Yeah.
I mean, just being a parent
Yeah.
is hard enough already.
Yeah.
I mean,
then there's something there that you're worrying about 24/7. You know, yikes.
I couldn't imagine. And you know what? I have the utmost respect for you
Yeah.
and your parents and your
I know.
grandpa.
I know.
Your
I can't wait
grandpa
to meet his
deserves a high
mom.
five too. Like that, I just love hearing
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
Yeah.
and in people and families being able to
Yeah.
pull and rally together and
Yes,
be there
that's
for
what
one
it
another,
was.
and friendships and people that you can turn to because at the end of the day, as my mom always told me, you got about a handful of friends on one hand that you can really trust and look to, especially in a case like this. I mean, I went through my struggles growing up and going through addictions and things like that, and there wasn't a lot of people that stuck around,
Yeah.
but my mom and my dad and my parents and my sister and stuff, I mean, they were so worried about me for years, but they never gave up on me, and
Yeah.
we laugh about it today going, wow, I never thought you would be where you are today. And I was like, either did I.
And like I said, that's the hard part is
Yeah.
Yeah.
for parents and the kids to see where they will be.
That's
Yeah.
right.
In the long
Yeah.
run, it's tough right now. It is
Exactly.
not easy.
Yeah.
But it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot
There's
of things. There's a lot of
Yeah.
hope.
When I meet a person like Devin, and there's some of the
Yeah.
other people, adults that we've met, where they have completely overcome it or they've moved past it, it's not an issue for them anymore, it does give me hope. I
Yes.
just glom onto that, and I want to ask a ton of questions. I want to know how they got through it. I want to
Yeah.
know what they went through, because that's what's pulling me through. I need that positivity.
Yeah.
Pull me through. Show me there's light at the end of the tunnel. 'Cause sometimes I don't
Absolutely.
feel like it.
Yeah, hang on, because
Yep.
there's definitely light at the end of the
I
tunnel.
know.
And I want to talk about your scholarship program
Yes.
and what you're doing. So share with us what that is and how we can find out more and how we
Yes.
can support you in that, Janine.
So, because we just talked about how hard it is to go through school. I mean, there's a lot of issues that can slow down the learning process. They're overwhelmed by physical symptoms, but cognitively, they're still aware of what's going on. They have the ability to learn. A lot of times maturity is taking just a little bit of time. Sometimes they might need the medication that slows them down. They might have a learning disability. All of this is part of Tourette's. So, I just happened to be looking online and was thinking like, what's going to happen with my son? Like, is he going to go to college and what's going to happen? I kind of was having to have a reality moment, maybe he's not going to go. maybe he's not going to go to some big 4-year college. So I started Googling around saying, like, are there scholarships for kids? I mean, there's scholarships for kids with disabilities, but what about Tourette's? I didn't find anything. So I called the Tourette Association back east, and they said, we don't really fundraise just for that, but there are a few out there. So they gave me the name of somebody out in Florida. Okay. And I looked at that website and I said, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I want to do. So I got really excited about it. And I thought, what if I make a scholarship? What if can I do that? And I looked into nonprofit. I looked how to fill out the paperwork. What does that mean? What's the tax filing? All this stuff I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Oh, I figured it out. I filled out the paperwork and I started a 501c3 nonprofit, and we called it Scholastic Tourette's Supporters, because that's what we want to do, support kids with Tourette's and give them a scholarship. So
Yeah.
I just started grassroots, started talking to my friends and family about it and said, I'm going to try to do this. Do you think that maybe I could give away 2 $1,000 scholarships? Let's just try. Just, small, start off here in California. Made a website. I've never done that before. I think to myself, maybe this is like helping my brain grow as I move into that second part of my life. So
Yeah.
I'm just learning how to do new things all over the place. So,
Great.
I did it. I raised $2,000 and I really committed to being open with my fundraising policies, and I made a board of directors, and I got a couple of friends to support me, and now we have a scholarship. So last year we gave out 2 $1,000 scholarships to 2 California kids, and then we fundraised again, and now we're looking at giving out 4 $1,000 scholarships. And if I continue on this path of doubling, I can either increase the scholarship amount or I can give to more kids. So it really depends. And I'm just open to doing anything. But I have gotten a lot of support.
Yes.
And our website is called scholasticsupport.org.
Okay.
And it has an application on there, and it tells what the eligibility criteria is. And, it's not really about GPA or anything like that. It's about just show us that you overcame your Tourette's.
Yeah.
That you're willing to take it to the next step. I don't care if it's a 4-year college, a 2-year college, vocational. Just do something after high school because you can.
Yeah.
Because it took a lot to get where you are, and they need a high five to say, you went through something really tough, and there's light at the end of the tunnel, just like you said. And let's, there's a scholarship for you, just because you wrote an essay, filled out the application, and you want some money. That's it. That's all it
And
takes.
I think that
Amazing.
Yeah.
having that program, not only
Yeah.
does it give them money for college,
Yeah.
but it shows the ones that are on the way to college
Yes.
that there are kids
Yeah.
with Tourette's that are getting
And
scholarships
they're doing stuff.
and they are getting to that level.
Yes.
'Cause
Yeah.
In my high school was the worst for me.
Yeah.
They didn't think I was going to graduate.
Exactly.
Much less, and I ended up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up graduating, and a lot because people didn't think I could, made me want to do it
Yeah.
even more too. Like
And-
I
Yes.
really busted
And wouldn't
my
that have
tail.
been awesome if you could have gotten a scholarship,
Well,
Yeah.
fortunately, and I'm going to let you
Yeah.
discuss this with my mom when you get to meet her. She's a very valuable asset.
Yeah.
But I was able to get on SSI and disability,
Yeah.
and through that with Tourette's, I
Yeah.
got my college paid for.
Yeah.
Luckily,
That's
Right.
what I need to
very
find out.
fortunate for
Yeah.
that.
There's a lot of people don't know about that stuff. I don't
No.
know about that.
You
Yeah.
don't know if you don't know.
Yeah.
That's what you said. You just don't know if you don't know.
Exactly.
And they
Yeah.
paid for books. They paid for a little bit of food.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just so many
Good.
things
Yeah.
that they were able to do. And, I ended up on the dean's list and
Yeah, that's
college.
awesome.
And I think college is a lot easier for kids with Tourette's because it's not so, I don't want to say sound negative, but militarized like high school. Like high school, you
Yeah.
have your homework you got to do the next day,
Yeah.
this, and this. College,
Yeah.
when it's
Yeah.
due, but you could kind of do it at
It's
your
flexible.
own pace.
True.
Right.
So
Lot
if you
more
need to take a
flexible, yeah.
break and go outside,
right.
do whatever, you can do that and come back and finish your assignments.
right.
So for me, college was tremendously easy
Yeah.
as far as that aspect
Yeah.
of it. I'm not saying all my classes were easy because,
Yeah.
it's challenging, but I was able to focus more and get more done and be more productive in college
Right.
because
Yeah.
I was able to have that flexibility
That's
with my
right.
assignments.
Yeah.
So
So hearing all of this too, what I would like to see is having the education for the school system.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that should be applied so that they can understand.
Yes.
Just as our kids and we go through schooling and all
Yes.
these different things,
Yes.
they need to be educated so they can deal
Yes.
with it because that's part of their job.
Our chapter just got a grant from the CDC through the Tourette Association, and it was to educate the educators.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of money set aside to make all the handouts and go out and educate. And we targeted all the different like special education districts here in Southern California, which there are a ton. We sent
Yeah.
out 35 letters. And actually, the most rewarding educational talk that I gave was to a group of about 25 nurses out in Irvine. It was so awesome because they were all school nurses. They all understood. They got it. You know, when
Yeah.
you talk and you see the
Yeah.
light on their eyes,
Yeah.
they could identify in their mind kids that they'd seen with it.
Yeah.
They understood the strategies that we talked about to maybe help in the classroom. It was awesome.
That's
So I would
great. I
love,
love
to be able
that.
to continue that.
Yeah.
And now that school's over, we're trying to get in for August and September when they start again. But that's our goal. Our mission is to do that.
Good. Well, let me know how we can help and if we
Yeah.
can do anything in a charity wise or
Yes.
things like that. Speaking of charity, and we've probably got about 7 minutes left.
Okay.
But let's talk about, so where do we find, how do we locate the scholarship system that you've had put in
So
place?
if you go to my website, which is scholasticsupport.org, there's a little link on there that says application,
Okay.
and it'll tell you all about it.
Great.
And then when we have the charity event that we'll be sharing, I guess, well, you know about that. You tell about that.
Let's
You tell-
talk about Team Up
Yes,
for
Team
Tourette's.
Up for
So
TS,
this is
yeah.
going to be an amazing event this
Yes.
weekend.
Yeah, so this is our third year.
Yep.
About 3 years ago, obviously, I found the Southern California Tourette Syndrome Association,
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what, I need to do something. I didn't know it was out there. I've been out here for 7 years, and I didn't know it even existed, and I stumbled upon it. It's like, let me contact these guys. So I decided through, with the contacts that I have and everything, it's like I need to put on an event, raise some awareness, raise some money. So I started Team Up for Tourette's. Started 3 years ago. We've been able to raise several $1,000s each year. So the first charity that we benefit is the Southern California Tourette Syndrome Association.
Okay.
Right.
And what they do is they have Camp George every summer.
Yeah.
And what Camp George is, you can kind of correct
Yeah.
me if I'm wrong, but basically it's a camp for the families and their kids
Right.
to go and meet and talk with each other, get to know each other. They usually have a guest speaker there.
Yep.
These
Great.
kids get to meet other children with Tourette's, become friends, form bonds. Don't have to worry about anybody making fun of them.
Right.
And the parents get to talk to each other and
Yes.
see what works for them.
Yep.
Okay.
It's
So-
told every year.
Great.
Yeah.
Every
Love
summer.
that.
So a lot of times these families can't afford to because with doctors' cost.
Yes.
Sometimes hospital
Okay.
visits with severe cases, medications, all that
Yes.
stuff adds up. So a portion of the money we raise will go to paying for those families
Yes.
to be able to go to Camp George.
That's
Okay.
right.
And this year, we're bringing on Scholastics, and obviously we explained what that is. So
Right.
we're going to split the proceeds down the middle. Half will
Okay.
go to the TSA, and then half will
Yeah.
go to the Scholastics program.
Yeah, and I usually raise money on something like a crowdfunding fundraiser site. I just got done doing a fundraiser one on Fundraiser, and I found a really generous man, a donor who has Tourette's, and he offered me a grant challenge. So he told me, if you raise $2,000, I'll match you $2,000, and we just hit our 2,000 mark, and that was
Yay.
with friends and family and
Congrats.
Facebook crowdfunding. Just yeah, I know, awesome.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. So you've so how can we donate to the charity as well?
I have a Facebook event page,
Okay.
third annual Team Up for Tourette's, and on there are links to the websites to
Okay.
make
Yeah.
the donations in the About section of the event. And the event will be held in Hollywood this year at the Parlor in Hollywood from 8 to midnight. We have red carpet celebrities, red carpets from 8 to 9. We have a specialty cocktail menu, and for the first 2 hours, anybody that purchases those drinks, 100% of those proceeds will go to the charities.
Great.
After that, a percentage of the bar. We're also going to have a raffle. We have some amazing sponsors that have donated some stuff to us. We've got Curtis & Co. Watch, donated a $1,500 watch. We've got
Nice.
F45
Good job, guys.
Fitness that has donated a 3 and 6 month membership for free. It's almost like a $3,000 membership. You can go between both facilities in Santa Monica and Culver City. We have chiropractic. A buddy of mine owns Johnson Wellness and Chiropractic. He's going to offer $350 worth of chiropractic sessions.
Right.
There's something else. V-Moda gave us some custom headphones. We're working on a couple other different things. Also, we have some liquor sponsors that are coming in. We have Fuego Tequila. They're going to do a little tasting.
Okay.
We have Tsingtao Beer. It's going to donate some beer as well.
Great.
And we also have Gold Lock Vodka. They're going to provide the vodka for the mixed drinks. We have a few celebrities that we've got lined up so far We have Omar Gooding hosting it.
Yeah, I saw that. It was great.
So that's going to be cool. We also have Pete Antco. He's going to swing by. He's got Tourette's, like we mentioned before,
Yep.
running for SAG president. We're working on Michael Masden. I think we have it's possible, but Thomas Jane,
Yeah.
who I mentioned earlier, was on the new Predator movie. Jay Jablonski was on The Big Hurt. My buddy Paul Ray, he was on. He's got actually about 3 different television shows on right now. Sorry, I can't remember the names of them. Mine's kind of full. It's been a crazy week getting everything done.
We got some celebrities coming.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
invited a few of my own. I'm not going to tell you guys because I'm going to keep it a secret, and you will find me at the red carpet doing celebrity
Awesome.
interviews.
Oh my
So
God, it's going to be so cool.
yeah, so we're going to have a lot of fun, and we really want everyone to participate in this and be able to donate and just really support what you're doing. Both Janine and
Yes,
Devin.
thank you.
So we're really excited. It's going to be a
Yes,
lot of fun.
It's going to be
Yeah,
fun.
it's going to be fun.
So where can we, again, donate so we can go on the Facebook page?
So if you go on the Facebook event page, 3rd Annual Team Up for Tourette's,
Okay.
and in the About section, you will see the description of the event, the websites of the charities, and they have their own little separate links to make direct donations to each charity.
Okay.
So,
Fantastic.
Yep.
Well, again, as much support as we can give. I hope that we've been able to educate the rest of the world tonight and explain what Tourette's is and have a better understanding of it. I have so much respect for both of you for what you've been through and what you're still, going through, Janine. And, I'll say prayers for your son
you.
and also for you, Devin. Just the respect for your families and what
Thank you.
everyone's been through. So, if I can give any, a little bit of support is just to keep going and for people out there knowing that there is hope. This is
Yes, this
living
is it. I
proof
know.
of it. And Janine, knowing that a parent can go
Yeah.
through this and,
Yes.
and the marriage can still be strong
That's
and
right.
viable and get through anything. So it's just about not giving up.
Yeah.
And just, having that courage and faith and love and understanding and rallying together.
Yes.
It's all about love and caring for
It
one
is.
another. So if you are a family member or somebody that's, suffering from Tourette's, rally together, guys, and just really
Reach
love and
out.
support one another.
Yeah.
And reach out to Devin, reach out to Janine,
Yep.
reach out to myself, TLC Unleashed. And, we can't wait. So we're going to hit the red carpet
That's
Saturday
right.
night. We're going to raise some money for such a great cause. I thank you guys so
Thank
much
you.
for being
Thank
here
you for
tonight.
having us.
And one last
Yes.
thing, I want to make a quick shout out to 2 of my good friends who sponsored the event. Without them, it wouldn't
Okay.
happen. Drip Doctors LA, Dr. Jamila, and Dr. Tony, thank you so much.
Great.
And Mitch Carricart Real Estate, thank you guys so much for donating and helping us out. We really appreciate it. So.
I love
Thank
it, you
you.
guys. Here on the TLC Unleashed show every Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Hollywood Vibes, Sports and Life. We will see you guys next time and stay tuned. Thanks.